Once upon a time, there was a person, almost a person. Somehow he could not quite see. Somehow he could not quite hear. He could not quite think. Somehow his body, for instance, was intermittent. He could see the bread he cut. He could see the letters of the words he read. He could see the wrinkles on handskin he looked at, or one eye of a person, or an ear, or a foot, or the other foot. But somehow he could not quite see. Nevertheless, the Grand Canyon spread wide open, like a surgical operation for him. But somehow he had only half a face there, and somehow his legs were missing at the time. And though somebody was talking, he could not hear. But luckily his camera worked okay. The seabird lifted its privacy and showed its most hidden fish thing. He stared, he groped to feel, but his hands were funny hooves just at the crucial moment. And though his eyes worked, half his head was jellyfish. Nothing could connect, and the photographs were blurred. A great battleship broke in two with a boom, as if to welcome his glance. An earthquake shook a city onto its people, just before he got there. With his rubber eye, his clockwork ear, and the most beautiful girls lay their faces on his pillow staring him out. But somehow his eyes were in the wrong way round. He laughed, he whispered, but somehow he could not hear. He gripped and clawed, but somehow his fingers would not catch. Somehow he was a tar baby. Somehow somebody was pouring his brains into a bottle. Somehow he was already too late, and was a pile of pieces under a blanket. And when the sea monster surfaced and stared at the rowboat, somehow his eyes felt a click. And when he saw the man's head cleft with a hatchet, somehow staring blank swallowed his entire face, just at the crucial moment. Then disgorged it again whole, as if nothing had happened. So he just went and ate what he could, and did what he could, and grabbed what he could, and saw what he could. Then sat down to write his autobiography. But somehow his arms were just bits of stick. Somehow his guts were an old watch chain. Somehow his feet were two old postcards. Somehow his head was a broken window pane. I give up, he said. He gave up. Creation had failed again. So that was a poem called A Bedtime Story by Ted Hughes. He's a poet I've quite come to like lately. And yeah, it's only quite recently that I've gotten into I've started liking poetry. For a long time I thought poetry was boring. It's only in the last 6 or 7 months or so that I've found poetry that I actually think is pretty cool and interesting and funny, and so I'm reading quite a lot of poetry now, trying to find new things I like, and I am starting a poetry group together with a friend in about 2 weeks' time. It's going to be a poetry group specifically for LGBTQ people, so a queer poetry group, although we'll probably talk about other things than queer stuff. It'll be poetry focused, but yeah, it'll be interesting, and I'm hoping it will help me discover more poetry that might be interesting, and more aspects of poetry that I haven't really discovered yet, and all those things. And just be a place where I can develop my own writing as well. So I'm pretty excited about it. I feel like I'm starting this poetry group for myself quite a lot. It's like I want to start it because I want this space to talk about poetry, but also it feels nice to be able to create a space where LGBTQ people can meet and just be a safe space for people to be what they feel like. They can talk about, they can write about anything in their poetry and it's going to be okay. Like, no one's going to be like, oh, you're bisexual or trans or whatever, and yeah. It's just gonna be like normal to be all those things. Sort of. Yeah. That's what's new in my life. I'll probably post more videos like this where I read poetry. And hopefully in a while I'll be able to read my own poetry as well when I start writing things that I actually like. There are some stuff, like quite bad stuff, up in my blog, but that's not a lot. I haven't posted a lot of poetry because I haven't really found a style that I like to write in yet. But yeah, there's some up there. And okay, that's all for now. Bye.